October 21, 1944. Aachen, Germany. The autumn chill clings to the shattered streets like a shroud, mingling with the acrid scent of cordite and crumbling masonry. Rubble crunches underfoot as gaunt figures emerge from cellars and bombed-out basements, their faces etched with the pallor of weeks spent in darkness. The distant rumble grows nearer, American army trucks, their engines growling through the haze, pulling into the ruined heart of the city. Among them, a refrigerated unit hums steadily, its white sides streaked with mud, exhaling faint clouds of cool vapor into the crisp air. A woman, her shawl drawn tight against the wind, pauses at the sight, her hand trembling as she covers her mouth. Tears well in her eyes, not from fear, but from the impossible promise of what lies within, abundance in a world of want. This moment, etched in the ruins of Aachen, marked a pivotal fracture in the facade of the Third Reich. As the first major German city to fall to Allied forces, Aachen's capture signified more than a tactical victory. It pierced the Siegfried Line, the vaunted Western defenses that Hitler had proclaimed impenetrable. The battle had raged for weeks, from October 2nd to October 21st, transforming the ancient coronation site of Holy Roman Emperors into a labyrinth of destruction. American troops of the 1st Infantry Division and the 30th Infantry Division, supported by the 3rd Armored Division, had fought house to house against entrenched Wehrmacht defenders, enduring artillery barrages and sniper fire that claimed over 5,000 American casualties. The Germans, under Colonel Gerhard Wilk, had fortified pillboxes in basements, losing some 5,600 men killed or wounded, with 5,600 more taken prisoner. Yet beyond the statistics of steel and blood, Aachen's fall exposed the hollow core of Nazi ideology to its own people. For the civilians who remained, defying evacuation orders or trickling back as refugees, the arrival of American supplies shattered years of propaganda, revealing a war machine not of barbarism, but of unforeseen generosity. In the shadow of the bombed cathedral where Charlemagne's throne once stood, the German civilians had braced for the worst. Nazi radio broadcasts and leaflets had painted the Americans as savage invaders, descendants of the gangster nation that would loot, ravage, and starve the conquered. Goebbels's ministry had drilled into them images of Allied bombers as harbingers of apocalypse, and tales from the Eastern Front whispered of Red Army atrocities that made hearts quail. The people of Aachen, many of them women, children, and the elderly after the mass evacuation of 160,000 residents before the siege, expected retribution for the Reich's sins, homes torched, families scattered, and rations seized. They had endured the total war economy, where ersatz bread from sawdust and turnip soup sustained life on fewer than 1,500 calories a day, with meat a rare luxury and fresh produce a memory from pre-war harvests. Ration cards dictated survival, and black market whispers spoke of children fainting from hunger in schoolrooms. As the American tanks rolled in, the civilians huddled, anticipating the boot of the conqueror to crush what little remained. But what unfolded defied their darkest fears. Instead of pillage, the U.S. Army's civil affairs detachments moved swiftly to organize relief. Trucks laden with provisions converged on the Lutzow barracks in the suburb of Brand, where refugees were herded under canvas-covered transports, sheltered from the rain that drenched the GIs in open fields. 20 tons of army food arrived in the first waves, sourced from the vast logistical arteries of the Allied supply chain, which stretched from Normandy beaches through the Red Ball Express, a network of 6,000 trucks, manned largely by African-American drivers who hauled 12,500 tons of supplies daily across war-torn Europe. Cooking vats, scavenged and delivered by American vehicles, bubbled with hot chow, nourishing soup thickened with vegetables, chunks of meat from canned rations, steaming coffee brewed strong, and even slices of cake baked in field kitchens. Records from the U.S. Army Quartermaster Corps document the scale. Over 400,000 tons of food moved to front lines in the fall of 1944 alone, including fresh beef, pork, and poultry preserved in refrigerated units to prevent spoilage amid the chaos. Eyewitness accounts capture the raw emotion of that contrast. a Stars and Stripes editorial penned by Major Arthur Goodfriend after infiltrating the lines as a private decried the coddling of these Germans while American soldiers subsisted on cold K rations, hardtack biscuits, canned cheese, and lemon powder in the mud. He wrote, "These Germans are eating hot chow soup, meat, vegetables, coffee, and cake," his words laced with indignation. Yet for the civilians, this bounty was a revelation. One refugee, a mother named Anna, recalled in post-war interviews archived by the U.S. Army Historical Division, described the moment the truck doors swung open. "We thought it was a trick, poison perhaps, like the stories from the East, but the smell, real meat, not the watery gruel we knew, brought tears. My child hadn't seen an apple in years." The refrigerated truck, its compressor humming like a distant promise, unloaded crates of fresh produce, oranges from California groves, butter churned in Midwest dairies, and milk in glass bottles, items that Nazi rationing had rendered mythical. Nazi propaganda had mocked American consumerism as decadent weakness, yet here it stood, tangible and life-giving. The factual weight of this encounter is borne out in declassified reports. The U.S. Ninth Army's after-action review notes that by late October, over 10,000 Aachen civilians received supplemental rations, boosting their intake to 1,400 calories daily, still austere but augmented by American stocks when local hoards ran dry. Signal Corps photographs show lines forming at distribution points, faces uplifted in quiet awe as soldiers handed out Spam tins and chocolate bars. Quotes from German prisoners interrogated by Allied intelligence reveal the ideological rift. "We were told the armies had no food, that their lines were stretched thin," one Wehrmacht sergeant confessed per OSS files. "But their trucks, endless and cold ones for meat. Our supply trains were bombed to nothing." The Battle of Aachen itself underscored this disparity. German defenders, cut off, resorted to foraging in ruins, while American artillery fired 169,000 rounds in support, backed by depots overflowing with materiel produced by a home front where factories churned out 300,000 aircraft and 88,000 tanks by the end of war. Amid this factual tapestry, the emotional undercurrent swelled. The civilians' tears were not mere sentiment. They stemmed from the chasm between expectation and reality. A young girl, interviewed by Red Cross workers in the makeshift camps, whispered of her surprise. "The soldiers smiled, gave us gum. We waited for the whip, but came the bread." This contrast pierced the veil of fear, evoking a profound vulnerability. Mothers clutched their children closer, weeping as the refrigerated truck's contents, symbol of an unattainable plenty, were portioned out. That truck, with its mechanical hum echoing through the debris, became a beacon of what the Reich could never provide. Not just sustenance, but the engineering of abundance, where democracy's ingenuity preserved freshness across oceans and battlefields. As days turned to weeks, this experience catalyzed a subtle transformation in perceptions. For many in Aachen, the Nazi worldview, rooted in scarcity, racial purity, and eternal struggle, crumbled under the weight of American largesse. Propaganda films like Triumph of the Will had glorified austerity as strength, but the sight of well-fed GIs sharing rations exposed the lie. Post-war surveys by the U.S. Strategic Bombing Survey revealed that 68% of Western Germans cited material shortages as a key factor in eroding morale by late 1944. In Aachen, civilians began to whisper doubts. One diary entry from a local teacher, preserved in the Aachen City Archives, noted, "The Americans bring food from machines that keep it cold like magic. What have we built but ruins?" This shift undermined the cult of Führer, planting seeds of reevaluation. Ideology bent before practicality. The refrigerated truck, recurring in memories as a humming sentinel, represented not conquest, but the democratic ethos where innovation served the people, not the state. It symbolized America's boundless fields and factories, where freedom fueled production unmatched by totalitarian decree. Over 2 billion pounds of canned goods shipped overseas, sustaining armies and civilians alike. The battle's toll lingered. 3,473 buildings destroyed, 65% of the city in ashes. But in the camps, the emotional reflection deepened. Soldiers like Private Richard Mullen of the 16th Armored Infantry wrote home of the irony, initial hatred softened by the sight of hungry eyes meeting abundance. "It's hard not to smile back at them," he admitted, capturing the human bridge across enmity. Yet beneath the facts of logistics and loss, a quiet reckoning unfolded. The civilians' tears marked the death of illusion as the refrigerator truck's hum drowned out the echoes of Heil salutes. In the epilogue of Aachen's fall, this encounter whispers a larger truth about freedom's enduring harvest. Where tyranny sows fields of want, democracy reaps abundance, its refrigerated vessels carrying not just food, but the promise of renewal. In that hum lies the poetry of plenty, a testament that ideologies built on scarcity wither before the open hand of liberty, nourishing souls long starved and illuminating the path from darkness to dawn.